Hello and welcome to this video. In this video I'm going to share with you the 10 mistakes I made in my short-term rental properties, i.e. the mistakes I made in my Airbnbs, so that you don't make these mistakes. Okay, so it's very important for you to understand this so you don't make these mistakes anymore. If you like this video or any of my videos, hit the like button below, subscribe to my channel for more amazing tutorials. And again, share with friends and family. This is what helps my videos get ranked in YouTube. So thank you so much for actually doing that. If you're doing that right now, really appreciate it. If you haven't done it, I'm going to wait for a couple of seconds or so for you to do it. Like it. I can see you liking it. Like it now. Like it now. Share it. Share it. I'd love you to share my videos because that will really help me share those videos to other people that may need it. The first mistake I made when I started my short rentals was basically, the first one was the guests locked themselves out. So why is it my mistake? So why is my mistake is because when I started, I did not know how to do instructions. I had to kind of get the guests to kind of call me before I can literally get them in. I get someone to go and get them in, or etc, get them to check in. So I used to want to know who's checking into my property because I'm so worried that the property is going to get trashed. So in this occasion, the guests came round and locked themselves out of the property, and they've left the keys inside, right? And the problem with that was basically I wasn't in the area because most of my properties when I started it was around my area, but then that weekend I was away. I think I was in London or Birmingham. So that guest rang me and said they've locked themselves out and they could not access the property. What is the next step? So basically there wasn't any next step back then. So I learned it the hard way. I had to ring a handyman. My handyman wasn't available. I had to ring a locksmith to come round and unfortunately drill through the doors, open the doors and get the guest in. So that was a very painful situation for me because I did not just have to pay the locksmith to come and sort the problem out. The guests were not happy and I had to give the guests the discount for the inconvenience. So how do you avoid things from happening again? So what I did after that, the number one thing I did was to create an instruction. So when I said instruction, I'm talking about checking instructions. Checking instruction need to be very plain, simple and easy to understand. If you have to label it in numbers. Number 1, do this. Number 2, you do this. Number 3, you do that. Right? That's one thing I did. So I had the instruction done, and actually I had that for all my other properties. The second thing I did basically is to have a key safe. I know some of you already may have a key safe, but here's another thing that you need to do. Right? Have a key safe. That key safe is the key safe that all your guests would use to access the property. Right? So they open the key safe with the instruction, tells them everything that they need to do to access the key safe, and they'll be able to let them in. The second most important thing you need to do, you need to have a spare key safe that has a spare keys for your property. Now, why is this important? It's very important because if you're not around, like what happened to me, I was in Birmingham, if they lock themselves out, you can tell them where they can get a spare key. Very important. Whether you do rent to rent, or I say, it doesn't matter, or you own your properties, always keep a spare key at site, because if you do that, it releases so much stress and pressure on you, as well as it literally stops bad reviews as well. So have a spare key safe somewhere, not in the same place by the way, somewhere where it's not easily accessible, but when things goes wrong, you can easily direct the guest to get to where that spare key is. And make sure, key thing to note here, never ever give them the key safe number in a text message or in an email. So what you do, ring them up, get them to go to the key safe and read the key numbers, and then tell them what the key safe number is. Get them to take the keys out, stay on the phone, get them to lock that key safe, mix the numbers or scramble the numbers, get them to open that door, right? Get them to pick their key up, get them to go back to the spare key safe, get them to return the key and scramble the numbers again. That's how you could overcome that, and that's how you ensure that they've returned the key back to where it's supposed to go. And again, if you're an entrepreneur, you don't have time to do that, make sure you have someone that they could contact to kind of help them with this process, okay? And the other thing you do also, make sure your handyman has a spare key. Very important. If your handyman has a spare key And if one of the guests mistakenly take the spare keys away with them, you've got your handyman also to come round and let the guest in. The other thing you need to also have, make sure your cleaner's got a spare key as well. Because if your cleaners have spare keys, in a situation where some guest wants to check in earlier when the property is not being set up, they may go with that key. So if they go with that key, the cleaners always have keys to actually let themselves in. And also, if the guests ever lock themselves out, you can ring your cleaner to come round and let them in if the key is not in the spare key safe. Second mistake. This is the mistake I made when I just started. It was a very funny situation actually. So we've got these guests. They booked our apartment, and it was in a very nice location in Cardiff city centre, very close to Principality Stadium. But guess what they were doing? They were doing party in the property. They had canisters, they had drugs, they had everything in the property. It was absolutely, I can't say, it's like a ghetto, right? The neighbors rang me saying, listen, we don't know what's happening in your apartment, but it looks like they're gonna burn that apartment down. It's stinking of weed, drugs, screaming, people shouting everywhere, people are outside of the property, so we need to go there right now, right? So what happened was I went there. When I approached the property, I saw over 50 people standing in the front, some over 25 people on the flat. Loud music played. It was a club. It was a massive club. So what I did basically, I went in, right, calmly. I wasn't upset because you don't know what these people were on. So I went calmly, asked for the person who booked the apartment, and guess what? He only booked it for 2 people. I booked it for 2 people and over 70 people turned up. So I called him in the corner and said, listen, this is not on, right? I'd like you to leave my property, please. And then he started arguing with me. He started swearing at me. I did not become aggressive. I was polite. I said, listen, I don't want to take this to the police. What I'd like you to do is to leave my property with your canisters, with your drugs and everything, if you could please. And I can give you 30 minutes. I'll wait outside for you to leave the property. So guess what? They were high. They didn't know what they're doing. They did not leave. So unfortunately, I have to do the thing that I don't really like to do to anybody else. I had to get the police involved. So I rang the police, told the police what the situation was. The police came round. It took the police a bit of time to come round, but when I told them I've called the police, right, by the time the police came, they've already left. But I made sure they took their canisters away, they took all their drugs away, and it was a very, very terrible situation to be in. Thankfully, the property wasn't damaged, and the only reason why the property wasn't damaged is because I get notified by my neighbors. Because if they had continued doing that parties throughout the night, guess what? The sofas would have gone, the beds would have been gone. Maybe I wouldn't even find a kitchen there. So again, these are the sort of negativity you can get from it. But how do you overcome stuff like that? Based on my short rental experience, 90% of the people that make parties in your properties are people that book your apartment last minute, especially during COVID. Are people that book the properties last minute because they may not have a place to party, or they may not have, or they get not let into a club, so they want to continue their parties. So what I do now, basically, I don't take last minute bookings. Even if we take last minute booking, if we receive the last minute booking, I get my staff to ring the guests to find out why they booked last minute. And again, from the conversation, you would know whether they genuinely need that accommodation or not. And what we now do, basically, we ask them to pay us a deposit. We said, okay, we're not going to say no to them outright. So we could say, okay, now we're happy to accommodate you, but we need you to pay X amount of deposit. And don't go for easy money. Don't go for low money. Go for about 300 or 400 or 500 pounds. Because if it's a genuine guest, they're happy to pay the deposit anyways, because they know they're going to get it back. But if they know they're going to go and make parties, then obviously they will not pay it, and then ask them to kindly cancel the reservation, and you will not charge them any cancellation fees. That's one way of kind of getting rid of last minute bookings, because these are the people who always make parties in your property. Very important. Parties, put it on your policies as well. Parties are prohibited, and also remind them that when they check into your property as well. Another way to know that there may be party people that are booking your property is looking at their location, where they're coming from, right? Suppose your Airbnb is in Birmingham, and you looked at the check-in instruction, or you look at the client profile, and you realize they live literally a mile away from your property. And again, that's a telltale sign to tell you they are not actually going there to sleep, they're going to make a party, right? So that's another way for you to know as well. So in my bookings now, what I do, we need you to be ID verified before you even book our properties, because we want to know, checking into the properties, we want to make sure we're having a genuine guest that would go and stay in the property without damage in it and check out the next day, ensure nothing is damaged. So these are the ways you could overcome people making parties in your property. The third mistake I made basically is not to have a minimum guest. So what I was doing basically, I just have one price for as many guests as possible, right? So again, one day we had lots of guests for a 2-bedroom apartment. I think they came around. Actually, we had minimum of 2 people, but what happened was they did not declare that they are coming in drones basically. So again, the same thing happened. The neighbors saw so many people getting into my property, and again, this is why it's very important to be friendly to your neighbors, because if you're friendly to your neighbors, they will tell you what's happening in your property whilst you're not there, right? Whilst you're not, they will call you and tell you what's happening. So again, they rang us in this situation and told us, listen, we've saw so many people getting into your property, we're just wondering what the reason is for and why they're there, and they are doing something that is not nice. So what we did basically, we went to the property, speak to the actual person who booked the apartment. In that case, tell them, listen, you've only booked it for 2 people and we can only accommodate two people. We're not going to accommodate more than that. So obviously we then speak to them gently, and then we told them that it's not allowed, it's going against our rules, and then obviously we would unfortunately have to decline the reservation in this occasion. So obviously we then speak to them, they understood where we're coming from, and then obviously they then take their belongings and obviously went away. So sometimes you tend to get that, but now what we do basically is we tend to ask the guests to confirm the number of people that are coming, and we tend to ask our cleaners also to kind of keep an eye and see how many people are in the property when they go to do the checkout changeovers. And again, that would also help us. And now we've got cameras, CCTV cameras in the front of our Airbnbs that will tell us the number of people that are getting into the property. So it's like a sensor thing. You know, when the guests hit the door, the camera comes on, and then we see the amount of people that are coming in, and then obviously then the guests would then check in that way. And also, you know, the way you could also kind of avoid things like this is just to let them in upfront by having an automated message saying that the only people that are allowed in the property are the number of people that have been indicated in the reservation. So that has also helped us drastically to allow having overcrowded guests in our properties. The fourth mistake I also make in my short-term rental properties is having doors that do not lock when you close them. Okay, and it has caused us lots of problems, lots of issues before. I remember one day one of my handyman was driving past the area, and then he saw my door wide open. The door was literally wide open, right? And apparently it's been there for about 2 days. It was open, right? So what the guests did was basically they checked out, right, without kind of locking the door. They did not lock the door. So what they just slammed the door, right, and went back and returned the keys back to the key safe. So they did not bother to check behind them to see if they've locked the door, right? So what happened basically, when they slammed the door did not latch into the latch, and obviously they haven't locked the door, and then they just left that door was open for 2 days. And I was grateful nothing wrong happened, and I was delighted to have had my handyman in the area at that time to tell me about it. And obviously I went there, spoke to the neighbors, and the neighbors told me that door had been open for over 2 days. So I went in, looked at the property, nothing was stolen, thankfully nothing was stolen. But what we now do basically, we change the door locks. So what we do, we've now got a door that when the door closes, it shuts automatically. So it only opens with a key. Okay, again, that is very important for you to have that in your properties. So if you have a UPVC door, that's what you could do. You can go and change the lock, get lock that can lock without you actually using the key, right? So the latch hooks in, and then when the door is closed, you have to use the key to open it. So that has helped us significantly. It's helped us so much, so many times. We're not going to have that problem anymore with all of our properties. So what we did, we changed all the door locks that way, and if you've got a deadlock, it's easy. So they can only open when you use the key, and the door will lock without actually using the key. So again, very important for you to have that in your properties. It will save you lots of panic attacks and things like that. The fifth mistake we made, or I won't call this mistake, but I would say malfunction, is the guest checks in, there was no hot water in the property. The water was cold and it was winter, it's freezing outside, and they were literally so upset. They were very, very upset about it. And again, what had happened was basically because the boiler hasn't come on for a very long time and it has lost the pressure. There was no pressure in the boiler to actually allow hot water to come out. So that was frustrating. So what the guests did was basically, instead of ringing us, they rang Booking.com and complained about it. Booking.com had to ring us, and then obviously we had to go and resolve the problem. So now you may be thinking, how do you resolve issues like that? You've got two ways of resolving it. Number one is having boiler cover. Boiler cover will help you drastically, because what happened basically, if anything goes wrong, you can ring the boiler insurers to go and sort the problem out. That's another way to do it. Sometimes they may not turn up the time you want them to turn up, but it's an opportunity for you to do it. The second way to resolve issues like that is making sure you train your cleaners to check the pressure of the boiler, right? So with my cleaners, one of their to-do list is checking the pressure of the boiler. So once they've done all their cleaning, the last checklist is to check the boiler pressure. We indicate what level that pressure needs to be at, okay? And they get trained on how to adjust the pressure. It's very easy it takes you 30 seconds basically. So each property obviously is different. So we have specific cleaners going to different properties. And what we do also, there is a little instruction within the boiler that tells you where the pressure is like. So in a situation where we don't have the cleaners at site, we ask the guests themselves, because the guests are amazing. Most of them just want to resolve the issue. So we then speak to the guests and tell them, go to the boiler, do me a video call, I'll show you what you need to do. With that instruction, we're able to resolve issues like that. Another mistake we did basically is no heating. Literally, the sixth mistake was no heating in the property, and the boiler wasn't working. It was a drama. Believe you me or not, in January, snow was falling outside. There's no heating in the property. Guests just checked in. They are absolutely fuming at us. So it was a difficult situation to be in. And how did we resolve this issue? It was a mistake from our end. Obviously, it was a mistake, but we're not sure. We did not know we had that issue, because previous guests did not complain that the heating wasn't working. So that was brought into our attention. Again, what we did in this situation obviously is to apologize to the guest in the first place. What we do in our properties, we have spare electric heaters. So what we did in that situation is to call the gas engineer, right, to come round and sort the boiler out, right? Meanwhile, we redirected the guest somewhere within the property to pick up 2 electric heaters, right? So we have 2 small electric heaters that will keep them warm until the gas engineer comes around. So again, if you've got a property like that, it's important to have 1 or 2 electric heaters to as a standby, just in case something like that goes wrong to your property, because boilers sometimes will just lose pressure and heating will not work and the hot water will not work as well. So vitally important for you to have things like that, or have a boiler cover. Have a boiler cover, get them to come round when things like that happen, or have a handyman who knows how to resolve things like that. That would help you drastically. Will save you lots of time and stress in the long run. Now we've got boiler cover, we have a handyman standby, and then obviously we have the electric heaters as well, just in case things like that happen. 7th mistake, leftovers. I know this might not be my mistake as well. Well, it is our mistake, to be honest. I need to put my hands onto it. So what happened basically, we had guests that's been in the property for 22 days. They were in the properties. Obviously, if you rent Airbnb, that property becomes like as if it's your home, okay? So what had happened was basically they had so many shoppings that they made, or they had so many shoppings that they've ordered. So what they had leftover milk, leftover fruits and vegetables and all that sort of thing. And fridge freezer wasn't that clean as well, because they've been there for 20 days. But what the cleaner did, basically, they forgot to check the fridge freezer. Right? They forgot to check the fridge freezer, so there was so much leftover food. They have bacon, they have all this stuff that stinks, and the new guest checks in, and it was absolute nightmare. They literally rang me, filming, shouting over the phone how disgusting the house was, how it's not been cleaned properly. They made so many allegations. Obviously, as a business owner and entrepreneur, you apologized about the inconvenience. I did apologize for the inconvenience. I said, I'm truly sorry about it. I will get the cleaner to come around and sort it. Again, this is important for you to have a flexible cleaner. If you have a flexible cleaner, it will do a lot for you, because they'll come around and sort the problem out. So what I did was I rang the cleaner and said, listen, I know your cleaners have been there. They've done absolutely amazing work, but they forgot to clean the fridge freezer. And he, oh, so sorry. He then apologized to us, and then he went, yeah, and then she went straight there, cleaned the fridge really nice. And guess what? I asked them also to get us maybe some goodies for the guests as well. Like I rang the guests, I said, listen, my cleaner's coming around. I'm just wondering if there's anything that you may be interested in, that groceries or things like that she could pick up for you. And then they wanted to have a pizza. So what we did, basically, we ordered pizza for them, and then obviously get them to have the pizza. And again, they were happy about it. They gave us 10% review. How do you call it? 10 over 10 reviews. So I was shocked when I saw that review, to be honest, but that's what you do. Any unhappy customer, it's an opportunity to make them a brilliant customer. And then guess what? That customer has been back for about maybe 4 times or so in the same exact property. So that's how we've been able to overcome that mistake. The 8th mistake I made in my short-term rental was the property was dirty. Wow. That was a massive mistake, right? It's one of the mistakes that have literally nearly get me to be bold, or literally pull my hair out. So what happened was, basically, we send the cleaning timetable to our cleaners, right? In a regular basis for any upcoming bookings or for any newer bookings. So what had happened was, basically, we send the instructions, right? But what we did, we mistyped one of the dates. So what happened, basically, the cleaner did not go to clean the morning before the new guest checks in, because that date was in her router, right? And then this guest checked in. Someone has checked out a couple of days ago. The house was in a mess. It was a family actually that was there before them. The beds are all over the place, plates, cutleries, the kitchen, everything was in a mess, right? It was really shocking to know that. Right, so again, the guests rang me shouting over the phone how my house is a tip, rubbish in front, rubbish at the back, nothing looks nice in the property. They are really upset about it, and we apologized to the guest. Obviously, it was a mistake. I looked at the router myself. We realized really the PA missed that date. She mistyped that date and booked the cleaner for a wrong date. And obviously it wasn't the cleaner's fault, and because we have a flexible cleaner, we were able to call her around to go and sort that problem out. And the guest was really upset, but when I spoke with them, they said, okay, that's fine, as long as we're getting someone to clean the property before we get back from our dinner, we're happy with that. I said, okay, fantastic, thank you so much for that. And I apologized to them as well, and then I offered them discount as well, to say, listen, it's none of your own fault, it's my fault, I'm really sorry about it. And by the way, I'm happy to give you 10-15% discount from your booking, just to say sorry for the inconvenience. Basically, what we did first, we asked the guests to leave the keys inside the key safe, and then the cleaner came around, did the cleaning, do it really nice, spray nice air fresheners. They come back to an amazing property. So the guest checked back in, rang me at the same time, said, listen, the property looks transformed. It looks like completely different properties, and we are happy to stay in here now. And thank you so much for getting the cleaners to come around and clean the property. So these things like happen. So how do you overcome things like that? Make sure, right, you have 2 people checking the dates, right? Get one to write, get one to forwrite it. Meaning get someone to double check the dates. because it's very important. It's very easy for you to miss the dates, because once you've missed that date, you're going to cause a mayhem. Do that. And now what we're doing now, just because we've advanced ourselves to the next level, we link the cleaner's calendar to our calendar. So the cleaners know when to go and clean automatically now. All they need is just to check into the system. They know exactly when they need to go and clean. Very easy, very, very easy. And again, if you work with me, these are one of the things I share with my students to kind of understand how they could not ever miss a cleaning. Yeah, because I kind of link your Airbnb or booking.com timetable or check-in timetable to your cleaner's check-in timetable to ensure that you all got the same information and there is never ever a miscleaning. The 9th mistake I made in my short-term rental. This might not be my mistake, to be fair. All right, this may be on the guest. Let me explain this, why I said is the guest. So the guests came round, they came to the property, right? And they didn't want to stay because they know if they cancel, they're gonna get charged. They turned around and told me that the property was not cleaned, there were towels everywhere, and the house is messy and all that sort of thing. Okay, so and again, what they did basically, they rang Airbnbs and told the Airbnb how rubbish the house was, how the house wasn't cleaned, etc., etc. And then we asked them, okay, if that's what they say, can they send us a picture of the property just to confirm what they've actually said about their property. So what they did basically, they had a different photo. We don't know where they took those photos from, right? They actually send those photos to Airbnb, and then Airbnb sent those photos to us. We had a look at the photos. We realized, I did not know, to be honest, so I sent it to my cleaner. My cleaner told me, by the way, Raheem, we haven't got a grey towel, right? We don't know where the towel came from. We haven't got a grey towel, and that toilet doesn't really look like our toilet. And then we looked at it, then we realized actually she was right. She was absolutely right. We don't have grey towels. All our towels are white, and that actual bathroom wasn't really our bathroom. So we went back to Airbnb. We told them what the situation was, and then obviously Airbnb had to go back to the guests and tell them, listen, it is not what you said, basically. But because we don't want them to come back and trash the property or have problem or literally cause damage to the property, what we did basically is to speak to Airbnb, because it's not a lot of money. They were only there for one night. So we said, you know what, Airbnb, this time around we're happy to cancel it as long as you're happy to waive the fees so the guests can go and find alternative accommodation. We did that because now they know what the PIN code was and they know how to access the property. If we hadn't refunded them, they may have come back and do so many stupid stuff at the property. So we refunded them and they went on their own way. The 10th mistake I made in my short-term rental when I started was, it was a very funny situation. The guest books us for 5 days, right? The booking was for Monday to Friday, Saturday checkout, right? So what the guest did was basically she booked us for Monday and she did not check in until Tuesday, right? She did not check in. We were under the impression that the property is occupied, right? And obviously because it was occupied, we thought the property was occupied, right? So we did not get to go to the property, right? And there was a cock-up somewhere where our PA did not notify the cleaner that someone else has checked out on a Sunday, right? So the property needed to be cleaned before the guest arrived on Monday, right? So everything was fine. And then we got a call on a Tuesday, a guest asking us that, oh, we just checked in the property and the property was in a mess and it's not being cleaned. We were thinking, okay, looked at the calendar, said you were meant to check in on Monday, aren't you? And then she said, yeah, I was meant to check in on Monday, but I did not check in on Monday because the last Airbnb I booked, right, they literally did not allow us to check in on time. So in this situation, what I did was I booked in for 5 days, 5 nights, where I'm only staying for 4 nights to make sure that the next day, the Tuesday, I am able to check in whenever time I want to check in. I said, well, okay, it's a bit confusing that is. I've never had that situation before. But we spoke to the guests, we said, okay, and again, apology. They came from America, actually. They were from the US. And we said, I'm really sorry about this. Obviously, that property should have been set up. So we rang the cleaner. The cleaner said they have cleaned the property. They have actually cleaned the property. So we were under the impression that the cleaner did not go there on Sunday to kind of clean the property. So we went there then, we asked the guests to kind of send us photos, right? So not knowing that the guest has cleaned all the property, but she missed one part of the property, right? One part of the property, which is one single bed that she hasn't set up properly. So she just put the duvet and all that. She forgot to put the towels and all that sort of thing. So when they walked into the first room and saw that, they were fuming. They were really, really upset about it. They thought the whole property was a trash, right? So obviously when we rang the cleaner told, listen, we've cleaned the property. We know we've cleaned it, 100% we've cleaned it. Then we rang the guests and find out, just to walk around the property to find out if the same thing is in all the bedrooms. So the guest then walked into the kitchen was fine. She said, I was on the phone with her. She went upstairs, the other bedroom was fine, the other bedroom was fine, the other bedroom was fine. The only issue they had was basically one of the single beds. So what we did, basically, we get the cleaner to come round again, clean that part of the bed, set it up nicely, get it really nice and tidy, and then obviously we apologize for the inconvenience, because they were staying they are staying in our property for 5 nights. So we apologized about it, and then we gave them discount for the inconveniences as well. So things went well. So these are the 10 mistakes I made in my short-term rental. So it doesn't go without saying, right, that if you know the guests are lying, right, if you know the guests are just taking the piss, you can stand by your decisions. By the way, you can go back and tell them, listen, that's not real, that's not true, that's not what happened, therefore I need to charge the guest for it. But in most instances, just apologize. Even if you're even if you're right, apologize to your guest, apologize for the inconvenience you may have caused them, and then obviously get them to be happy, friendly. Some of them may not be happy, but just get them to kind of be happy. And again, if you got a bad review, if you know the review is not accurate, it's an allegation, you can reply back to the review and kind of apologize, obviously, but then put your points across professionally, in order for people or other people that are booking their property know that really that fault wasn't yours, it was the guest's fault. And again, apologize whenever things like that happen, just so that everybody knows that you are a professional host, you're not arguing with your guests within the property. I really hope this video has been helpful. If this video has been helpful, don't forget to hit the like button below, subscribe for my channel for more amazing tutorials.